Welcome to Whispering Blooms, a Stripology sew-along. I'm Allison from QuiltNCode, and this is Block C from our 2026 Spring Mini Block of the Week quilt series. Follow along as we build this quilt block by block, week after week. You'll find the pattern in the description as well as a place to find the kit so that you can use the same exact fabrics. Subscribe if you want to stay on track. Now, let's jump into sewing. My method for Block C is half square triangles and squares. We're going to start with the half square triangles. I do the 8 half square triangle method with the Stripology ruler. In order to keep everything straight, I start with just half the blocks at a time. So I have 2 creams, 2 medium purples, and 2 darks. I'm going to take my 2 creams to begin with, and I'm going to lay them out here. And then I'm going to take a medium purple and put it on one of my creams, and a dark purple and put it on the other cream. Now, I'm going to take the dark purple and put it with the medium purple. The 8 half square triangle method for Stripology starts by putting your squares on point. I'm going to take my mini squared ruler and I'm going to bring it over so that I can line up my diagonal lines here and my straight line here on my diagonal. And then I'm going to cut on my 6.5 inch line. I'm going to repeat that for the other 2 sets, and I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch on the long diagonal line of all of my squares. Now that they're pressed the right direction, I can place them together so that their seams will nest. So I'm going to put the colors opposite to each other, and I'm going to make sure that my seam nests in the center. Now I can bring over my Stripology Mini. I can line it up again just the way I had before, only now I have this wonderful seam line that also lines up with the line right there, and so I can make sure that everything is super accurate when I go to stitch. And now I'm going to stitch them the same way I did before. So I'm going to stitch right along my long edge here. Now that I have my 1/4 square triangles, I want to square this down to 3.5 inches. This is where the magic of the Stripology comes in, because this is the last time I have to square. I'm going to square this to 3.5 inches. I am using the white center square here in the middle. I am making sure that I'm lined up with my white diagonal lines with my wonderful star here in the center. I start by cutting the edges, and then I can lift this up and pull over those sides. Then I'm going to turn it and line it right back up in the center with my diagonal lines going across, and I'm going to cut the other sides. For this particular half square triangle, I am looking for half square triangles that are 1 3/4. Okay, so I can turn this over now and I can line it up with my dotted line right there, and I can go at the 1 3/4 line. Then I can simply turn these this way and line back up and go at my 1 3/4. And then I have perfectly squared little 1 3/4 blocks ready for the next step. Block C is always the most confusing for me to lay out, so I start by placing my squares for these 2 blocks out, and then I start with my edges. And so I know that the cream is going to be pointing toward the center and that I'm going to be opposites. Now that I have them all together, I can begin to stitch them. I like to start by doing rows. So I'm going to go row, row. I'm going to do this whole row, then this whole row, and then I will come back and I will complete this square, okay? And then I will go to this square. I like to take it slow because I'm going to mix something up in here. I've done the rows, and then I have pressed each row in a different direction so that when I go to put these rows together, they're going to nest up nice and neat. Now, I say that, but I also pin because I don't want to think about it when it's on the machine. So I go ahead and get some pins in here before I stitch. Now that I have my block all together, last thing I want to do is just square it down to my 5.5 inches and make it all nice and clean. And it looks like all I'm doing is shaving off a few of the little pieces of threads. And now I have all 4 of my block C. And that finishes Block C for our Whispering Blooms Stripology Quilt-Along series. Don't forget to like and subscribe to follow the whole series. You'll find the pattern in the description, and if you'd like to quilt or sew along with the same fabrics, be sure to check out our kits. See you next time. Happy quilting!